Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So, quite a bit of downplaying in the American media about the No Kings protest yesterday. The New York Times reports that it drew thousands of protesters across the US. Oh, thousands. It was marvellous. But then they say there were over 100,000 just in New York alone. But the media in America is, of course, under massive pressure from Trump to suppress their own freedom of speech, or he'll do it for them. More distant media outlets, of course, including the BBC, could report that millions attended. But how did the protests compare to Trump's description of them? What's at stake and what are they hoping to achieve in terms of practical outcomes? But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So the No Kings demonstrations weren't just scattered rallies. They were in all 50 states yesterday. Some protesters were dressed as the founding fathers, linking their cause with the very blueprint of their nation, which is now in serious jeopardy. They carried signs that declared no crown, no crime, no coup. The atmosphere, festival-like, carnival, really. Trump had described the protests as violent uprisings. They were anything but, and had to be anything but. They know that Trump would love nothing more than to provoke them into acts of violence or criminal damage in order to crack down hard. And you can't ignore the sheer scale of the numbers here. Like 7 million people, according to reports. That's roughly the combined population of Chicago, Houston and Philadelphia, all walking out at the same time. That figure's not just impressive in itself. It actually crosses the 3.5% of the population threshold, which researchers have identified as the tipping point for something that can lead to change. Of course, that's if the energy can last. For now, the footage is everywhere. It clogs social media feeds, it dominates local news, and every single clip ends on that powerful 3-word chant, "No Kings here," right? So what exactly triggered this incredible groundswell of public outrage? Well, it's called Project 2025. We've heard of this before. The Heritage Foundation-led blueprint that lays out a fairly chilling agenda. You know, criminalising mail-in voting, replacing up to 50,000 experienced civil servants with pre-vetted loyalists, giving the president direct, unchecked control over normally independent agencies like the FTC, the Fed. The author, Stephen Miller, last week got caught out suggesting that the president had absolute unlimited power. He doesn't, but he's behaving as if he does. The only difference between Trump's conduct as president right now and an absolute monarch is that his hat is made of China's finest polyester, not gold and jewels. This isn't some niche issue. Here's why you're seeing veteran prosecutors, libertarian scholars, and Gen Z, yes, Gen Z, climate activists all showing up to the very same rally. This plan fundamentally rewrites the entire power map of the US government. I mean, you think about it. If an attorney general can remove special counsels without cause, if the president can unilaterally reassign judges to border courts, if inspectors generally serve merely at the pleasure of the White House, then oversight isn't about accountability. It becomes a pure loyalty test. Oh, and that loyalty is not to the country, its people, or even its constitution. It is to one man and one niche political group. Historians have got a fairly stark warning for us. They explain that democracies very rarely these days in the modern world collapse in dramatic coups. No, they erode slowly, insidiously, through seemingly minor legal reclassifications. One day you have an impartial court, the next you have a presidential compliance tribunal. Same building, but a different crown. The protesters' argument is remarkably simple, yet it's fairly profound. Once you swap out neutral referees for ideological enforcers, then every single policy turns into an immediate mismatch in terms of fighting it. You know, like climate regulations, you will not have a debate. You'll not have any sort of, to and fro. They'll just disappear overnight. Union protections, yeah, they're up for reevaluation. If the referees are gone, if the checks and balances are stripped away, then when a policy comes into force, that you think, hang on a minute, I don't think that's quite legal or right or whatever, you can't challenge it. That's precisely why these demonstrations emphasise the rule of law, not just partisan politics. It's why there were never Trump Republicans speaking at the rallies, quoting Reagan, brandishing pocket constitutions, right? It's about protecting the system itself for everyone. And this is really important. I said last night on the stream, I really hope there are like Republicans there as well. It's very, very important. It doesn't just look partisan. It mustn't be seen as a protest led by those who lost the most recent partisan battle, you know, the elections last year. The Republican protesters are the most important, even though the media will put more emphasis on the likes of Bernie Sanders, because that makes it look contrarian. Organisers are refreshingly candid about their aims as well. They don't expect House leaders to suddenly tear up Project 2025 next week just because people wave some bits of cardboard, right? That's not how sustained change works. Their strategy is more nuanced and more based on what has worked in the past. It's about raising the political price of compliance. So they want fence-sitting senators to feel profoundly camera shy about confirming any nominee who openly endorses the plan, Project 2025. They want governors to think twice and then a third time before allowing federal loyalty officers to embed themselves in state election officers. And crucially, they want corporate donors who value stability to finally pick sides publicly and unequivocally. And history tells us this kind of pressure only works when protest energy is effectively funneled into elections. You know, you can get people out on the streets on a protest day, but what happens afterwards? So you've got lobbying efforts, lawsuits. These are the arenas where sheer stamina matters far more than fleeting headlines. Remember the Tea Party movement completely flipped town hall culture in 2010. Civil rights organisers, they transformed powerful marchers into the Voting Rights Act. Both of those monumental achievements required years of relentless effort, dedicated lawyers and committed candidates. The No Kings organisers swear they're using the same playbook. Local election trainings are kicking off, constitutional law workshops already taking place in libraries. There's organisation behind the protest days. The big open question that keeps strategists awake at night is, can you keep these millions of people engaged, committed, long after the drums fall silent? There are three critical choke points that could genuinely halt Project 2025. The first, of course, Congress has to fund the government. If lawmakers strip appropriations for new loyalty hiring programs, the White House cannot pay the salaries of those loyalists. No money, no army of loyalists. Second, of course, federal judges have already signalled significant scepticism towards like Schedule F style mass reclassifications of civil servants. A nationwide injunction could effectively freeze the entire personnel machine, bringing it to a halt. Third and most dynamic is state resistance. Blue states are already drafting laws that would bar their state employees from cooperating with federal ideological vetting, echoing the successful sanctuary city model. If enough states opt out, if they collectively refuse to participate, the plan's overall effectiveness shrinks dramatically. Protesters, believe it or not, can directly influence each of these levers. Massive public disapproval doesn't just make noise, it actually scares legislators. Legislators spend a lot of time looking at opinion polls. They are going to fear swing district backlash at the next election, their next election. You know, a high-profile court loss for Project 2025, that could energise donors who are willing to bankroll future lawsuits, turning legal battles into a powerful front as well. And state defiance looks far safer, more politically viable, when the polls show a solid 60% opposition to Project 2025 from the public. So in short, the marchers are the ignition. The protest yesterday is like the ignition, the spark that gets things going. It's not the engine itself. The engine is the slow, fairly boring work of politics by normal means. Filibusters, subpoenas, rigorous oversight hearings, election challenges, all fueled by the voter memory that is built up with these No Kings protest days. And that memory, I mean, let's be honest, it lasts about as long as the next news cycle, unless citizens consistently keep stoking that fire, which is why, you know, we're not even a year into Trump's presidency and we've already had multiple No Kings Days protests. They can't just do it as a once a year thing. Now, the good news is that polling conducted after these protest days does show a significant jump in public awareness of Project 2025. So these days are doing a job of raising awareness. Google searches for the plan do spike, so that in fact, they spiked so much, the Heritage Foundation site actually crashed at one point due to the sheer traffic, which is proof that street energy does lead to policy discussions on kitchen tables nationwide. And here's the thing as well. Spikes fade. You know, the truly key indicator to watch will be small donor fundraising. If organisers can successfully convert those 7 million marchers into consistent monthly donators of either money or time, they can then hire crucial field staff, keep expert lawyers on retainer, send local chapters across the country, you know. But if donations, of course, fall back, then you've just got your usual activist base. That momentum stalls. And if that happens, then what else is going to challenge Trump's supremacy here? So the stakes are huge, but there is a plan behind the movement beyond just turning out every few months to wave some placards on the street. Protests of the sort we saw yesterday don't themselves bring about change, but they can become magnets for journalists, allowing them to spread their message. They then use that message to drive the less exciting work of training and mobilising supporters to engage in the political game day to day. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.